There. All right. They do this for about a minute. So at 8:01, it will stop.
So just tell me what this is.
So at 8 p.m. every night, everyone goes to their balconies and applauds. And if you're by a port, all of the boats sound their horns. This is to thank all of the health workers for continuing to work and save us. So.
I love it. And is this all across France, or is it just in Nice?
No, it's all across France, and they did it in Spain as well, and perhaps elsewhere, I'm not sure. But yeah, all over France, 8 p.m. for a full minute, everyone's out banging pots and clapping.
I love it. I know in the UK at 8 o'clock on a Thursday, I think everyone stands outside their homes and, you know, bangs on the saucepans or claps or whatever. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, no, this is every day, every single day.
Every day. Oh my gosh, wow. So if you're trying to get an early night, you can think again. I love it.
Some will continue to go. Sometimes they do little kind of back and forth, like some will do a honk honk and the other one will do honk and then the other will do honk honk.
I love it.
They play with it.
Hi and welcome to Someone You Should Meet. Today we're in Nice, France, to meet Nicole Ruskell, who is the editor-in-chief of Riviera Insider magazine, which is a lifestyle magazine. And you are also, Nicole, the ambassador of the Côte d'Azur with the Tourism Board. So a busy girl. And can I just add, most importantly, you are a friend of mine and a fellow University of Sheffield alumni.
Oh, you have the cup.
I have my mug. I'm drinking my tea from my mug. We'll talk about that in a minute. So that's how you and I know each other. Yes. But you're obviously in Nice, France right now. Are you on your balcony, it looks like?
I am. I'm on my balcony, yes.
Love it. And of course, the reason why I'm speaking with you today, apart from the fact that you're a great person and I find you very interesting, is because we are doing a series called Coronavirus Check-In, where we literally check in with people across the world just to see how COVID-19 is kind of impacting their daily lives.
Man, I wish I knew I could have gotten the cup out of a box.
Oh my gosh! You know, it's funny. I was making myself a tea before. You've got your. Are you drinking tea? That looks like a Starbucks cup. Yeah, I was.
It is. It's actually my LA cup.
Oh, that's hilarious! Oh my gosh! Because of course, Nicole, you are from LA originally, aren't you?
Well, I'm from Northern California. Los Gatos, which is it's in the Bay Area. But I lived in LA for many, many years. So yeah.
Okay. So you and I met in Sheffield, at the University of Sheffield. We were the class of, hang on, let me check. 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah. We met while doing our masters. So mine was in broadcast journalism. And what was yours? Was in journalism also?
Mine was print.
Print. Yeah. Okay, cool. So why Sheffield? Why did you end up there?
Actually, it's a funny story because when I decided that I wanted to do journalism, I was living in Italy, and I just did a basic internet search of the top journalism programs in Europe. There was, I think, number one was a private school in Paris, which is a little bit out of my budget. And then the very next one was Sheffield, and I was like, all right. I happened to have a handful of friends already from Sheffield who would come every summer to Italy on their holiday. So it just seemed like the perfect situation. So yeah.
Had you ever been to Sheffield before?
No, I hadn't.
What did you think when you arrived there?
I loved it. Which a lot of people locally, if anyone is familiar with Sheffield, they always say to me, why do you... It has a reputation of being maybe a little bit rough around the edges, but it's absolutely stunning. I love it, and it's green and beautiful. And the biggest positive about Sheffield is the people. I think people from Sheffield are just amazingly wonderful, good-hearted people. That was the biggest.
Yeah, good parts of Yorkshire folk. Because of course I'm from Yorkshire originally. I'm from about kind of 10, 15 miles away from Sheffield. But you know what? I've got my graduation cup here, which we've already kind of discussed. And the thing that I remember most about our graduation day is just how blooming cold it was. It was snowing. So it was January, and like can't for the life of me figure out why they would have a graduation ceremony in January in Sheffield. It was snowing. We couldn't have any outdoor photos, or I couldn't, because when I went outside to get mine, it was literally snowing. But I brought my little girls with me.
The weather is definitely not one of the pluses.
Oh my gosh, no, I mean, you know, I do love Yorkshire. It will always be my home, but the weather is something I do not miss. But I brought my little girls with me. They would have been 4 and 6 at the time, and they were like really excited because they'd got the day off school, and you know, they weren't really that bothered that they were going to my graduation ceremony. It was just like the fact that they got the day off school. So yeah, I mean, what do you remember from that day?
I just remember it being a blur of going from station to station, where we had to go here for pictures and go there for paperwork and go here, and then we sat in the big auditorium, and that was the fun part, I think. Once we sat down and things started happening, and you know, getting names called and things, I think that's when I was finally like, okay, it's happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was certainly the best part for me too.
Yeah. No, it was a good day. It was a good day for sure.
It was. You know, so you and I, because we're going back about 5 years ago, so we were, not to give our age away now, but we were in our 30s, so we were kind of like the mature students.
We are in our
30s. We are in our 30s. Hang on to the second.
No past tense.
But, you know, seriously, you know, we had a lot more responsibility, I feel, than a lot of our other fellow students. For example, I was a single mum. I'd got 2 young kids. You were married at the time. Mm-hmm. Like, how different was it going back to university the second time around, being in your 30s and actually having some kind of responsibility?
Obviously, it was the most different at the weekend when people wanted to, you know, party all night, because I was a little bit over that. No, it was, I didn't really have too much issue with it. I mean, I didn't have kids that I needed, so it wasn't too different for me. I enjoyed it. I loved going back to school. Actually missed it. I missed kind of that academic aspect of my life, because where I was living was not affording that to me.
Yeah,
I mean, I loved it.
Yeah, I agree. I loved it too, Nicole. I mean, it's challenging because I'd actually already been a journalist for 10 years before I went and did my master's. So I went from like a working environment back to school. And so, yeah, for me, I really enjoyed it. But, you know, it was intense. And obviously I had two small kids as well.
It was an intense program. I mean, you know, it was an impacted full-time, really intense program.
Yes, it was. So our program was a year long, and we had to quit work. I mean, I had to quit my job to do that. So
it was totally full-time.
But you know what, Nicole, I always say I think it was a great example to my girls, because it, you know, I didn't have to go and do that. I'd already got my career started. I just wanted to kind of enhance myself and, you know, give myself better chances career-wise.
You were amazing. You were amazing that you had 2 kids and were able to do that, because I had nothing, and it was still a bit much for me. So
hey, well, listen, you and I met, I think, on the first day, or on sort of certainly very early on in the course. I remember us meeting at the library. We were somewhere, and I just remember thinking it was so great that I'd got someone who, you know, was a bit of a kindred spirit, you know, similar age to me, and yeah, it was great. So I really appreciated our friendship during that course. Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? Do you keep in touch with anyone?
Yeah. Not too many people, but just kind of like that small group that hung out every day. We recently had a Zoom catch-up meeting, which I was unfortunately a bit late to and missed it. But otherwise, we keep in touch. Not all the time, but you know, every once in a while we'll have our group chat and send messages to each other.
It's funny because Zoom meetings are now like dominating my life, because my girls, they're obviously not at school, they're working from home. So like literally my full-time job, in addition to like my actual job, is to like.
Yeah, I'm working more now than I was before. Like,
I agree. Yeah, I feel the same. So coming back to kind of where you are now, like, why did you end up in France?
Well, actually, winding up here was my original goal, which I thought kind of transformed a bit when I moved to Italy. But this was my ultimate goal, and I've wound up here. And this is actually the job that I did my internship with right after school, and then kept in contact with them and did freelance work for them occasionally, and then the position came open, and they called me. So it's it's great. It's absolutely my dream job, dream place to live. Couldn't be happier.
So what happened to Italy though? Like, where did Italy appear in the mix?
Italy was the marriage. So I married an Italian. We lived in the US for a while. We lived in LA for a long time. And then I had always wanted to move to Europe and wanted to move here, but you know, Italy's right next door, so that was good. So we moved to Italy, and right at the economic crisis, which was not a very good idea, but it made for some difficult years adjusting to living in a new country, and also just the economy was in the toilet, which, sorry to describe it that way, but so it was difficult, and so it definitely made me keep searching for something else to do, because I'd always been in editing, and I did a lot of academic editing. I edited academic journals, and then also right after our masters, I was kind of into journalism, because I had always done academic stuff, and I've traveled and given papers at conferences. Went to China. I actually went to give a paper at the University of Wuhan in 2016,
Oh wow.
at a time when no
Sorry,
one
Ollie.
knew. No one had ever heard of Wuhan, and now the entire world knows about Wuhan. So I've actually been there.
So tell me
But
about that. Tell me about your impression of Wuhan.
it's a big city. China is big. You know, when you're talking to Europeans as an American, there's kind of this idea that, you know, Europeans don't grasp how big America is until they've been there. You know, like the distances and the driving and stuff. But going to China is, everything is so big. I mean, the buildings are massive. Things are constructed in just like amazing size and scale. The train stations just go on for like kilometers. It's just massive. But and the people are really wonderful, really sweet. Um, it was a really interesting experience, and so everyone's so interested to help and understand me. Obviously, you're a foreigner, you know, it's clear to see, and so, you know, they're interested. Can I help you? Can I do this? And it was a nice experience. I enjoyed it. And Wuhan is a really big city, not anywhere near like Shanghai or Beijing or anything, but yeah, it's big buildings. My God, the buildings.
Yeah, I haven't been to China, and I'd love to go. But yeah, I've heard the same thing about the size of the buildings. I was speaking to a current journalist and a friend of mine, Mark Mullen, who actually anchors one of the NBC affiliates here,
Yeah.
and he was stationed over there for 2 years, and we were discussing that the other week. And yeah, it's interesting. And I asked him the same question that I'm going to ask you actually. Like, how do you, the way that the world may be perceiving Wuhan right now, how does that kind of differ from the way you saw that town, that city, when you were there?
I don't know. I think it's really our who are very critical about China and how they control things. And yes, to a certain extent, things are very controlled. I mean, I had to make sure that I marked that I was attending as a tourist for my visa, because if I marked that I was a journalist, then there would be too many questions and I'd have to be interviewed, and they're like, oh, just put your tourist.
Yeah,
And
it's funny because yeah, I had the same situation in Algeria, and I worked there for a couple of years. And the first visa I filled out, and I didn't realise and put journalist, and then the company I was working for said no, 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 no,
no, don't do that.
do not put that word down there. So I had to do the same as you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's not to say anything bad about it. It's just, I mean, the communication, everything is very controlled. They make sure they have a handle on things, and the people I know that were living there, said in the very beginning, oh no, we don't know that anything's happening. They kept everything very hush hush. But then once they realized it really was a serious, contagious disease or virus, then they really took care of it, and I think we're really on top of it, and the people are very obedient, but not in a controlled, oppressive way. I feel like they just do it. I feel like a lot of the people consider the government kind of like a parent, and that they make the choices to take care of us. So the way we're going to do it, I didn't get any sense of oppression, as long as you are towing the line. So I'm not very critical about China like a lot of other people are. I've seen much more human and nice and good aspect of it. Not to say that people can go out and do anything they want, but I don't think that it's something that's, especially here, there's a lot of people who are very critical about the data coming out of China. Say, oh well, we can't trust anything that comes out of there anyway. I don't know. That's arguable, because they are going to want to control their data and what's being seen, and they're very careful about how the world sees them. Also, because the world is already critical of China, like as a baseline. So it's arguable about how, the reasons for them wanting to control so much how people see them, because I think there is a bias, but I don't know. My own personal experience was very good.
Okay. How is China perceived in France right now?
The funny thing is the critical side that I see from people locally is actually more from the Brits. I think the French, while they are critical, I don't feel as much animosity. They don't seem quite so on attack, maybe, as I get a sense from the local British community. So I think they are critical in the sense of it being, controlled and iffy on their human rights history, but there is an openness and willingness to work for business and for, I don't know, lots of things, and sharing culture as well. And we here locally in Nice, they've worked a lot on a direct connection with China. For tourism and for sharing cultural things. We've had a lot of Chinese cultural festivals recently, and we have direct flights now from Nice and Beijing. And so there's definitely an openness in the community, more so with the French, I think.
Okay, that's interesting. Tell me about the situation there right now. I was reading an article by France 24 and France 24, the English-speaking TV station there, and there's some good news over the weekend. I think Sunday saw the lowest number of new cases since all of this began. So what is happening there right now? What's the mood like?
Mood is good because we have a date for the end of our confinement. It's May 11th. We're going to be able to go back to work. Schools are going to go back in session. Not 100%. It's going to kind of be a gradual shift back into, well, I can't say normalcy. It's not going to be normal, but we're slowly going to start, having more businesses open. A lot of companies are still kind of doing like a soft opening where you can choose to go. If you're able to telecommute, then you can choose to stay home or choose to go into work. It really depends company by company. But yeah, the numbers have been continuously dropping. They kind of made a chart of different regions based on color. If you're coded green, then you're good to have the déconfinement. If you're red, then things are still going to be tight. But we've had really strict lockdown here, so it's showing in the numbers now. And I mean, we've had. It's funny seeing some of my friends in the UK that still go out to parks and walk about and go off and take hikes and stuff, because we're just not. I mean, not that we're not allowed out of the house, but we have to have a digital certificate of the reason that we're leaving the house. It timestamps it, and if we're just doing sport, that has to be within 100. Well, no, I can't remember now. But it has to be within a kilometer. It has to be within a kilometer. It has to be only 1 hour and one time per day. And so, I mean, there's a lot of controls that they've had on us.
Wow. Okay. So you're in Nice, aren't you? So that's for people that aren't familiar with France. You're in the south.
Yeah.
So if you were just to so now you want to nip to the shops. Hey, you've got to have what in order to be able to go and do that?
So I have to go onto the government website and fill out their online form. And then that creates a PDF with all of the data and then a QR code. And then I save that PDF in my phone, so that if I get stopped by the police, they just scan my QR code, and then it gives them all of the details: my name, my address, my birth date, my place of birth, when I left my house, my address, all of that, and the reason that I'm leaving.
Oh my gosh.
And you need that even to walk your dog. I mean, it's like, it's been really strict. They've closed all the beaches. They've closed all the promenades. The Promenade des Anglais has been shut down. Nice particularly has been very strict. It kind of varies a little bit by city, because while France is a very top-down government, the regions and the cities are kind of left a little bit of leeway of how enforcement happens. So between Nice and Cannes, which are about 35 minutes apart from each other by car, Nice has been very strict. They have, police and military kind of roaming the streets, and they even have drones that will go and make sure people aren't on the beach. And like, the drone will come down and yell at people and say, you're not supposed to be here, and they'll tell the nearest cop to come, and then they'll check the certificate or give them a fine or something. I mean, it's it's been really intense. Cannes has been not quite so Big Brother-ish. They've been a little bit, I mean, they're strict on the enforcement of things, but it's been a little bit, I don't know, a better bedside manner. It's been a little bit. So it's
kind of, I mean, that's kind of similar to what's happening here, because so we're in Del Mar in California right now. So our beach opened today. Yay! And my dog will be thrilled, because that's usually her daily walk. So our beach has been closed. Then other beaches in San Diego have reopened. Then Orange County, we had an order from the governor in the last few days that Orange County have had to reclose their beaches because people were not kind of adhering to the social distancing. So like, how big are a part of everyday life are the beaches in your area? Is it similar to kind of where we are? Because you're from LA, you know how important the beach culture is here.
Yeah. No, absolutely, it is. It's the same here. I mean, I consider the French Riviera much like Southern California. I mean, the Côte d'Azur is like Los Angeles, where I kind of consider Nice like Santa Monica and Cannes like Beverly Hills, and they kind of have similar traits amongst each other. And yeah, the beach is part of life. Maybe not as much laying out on the sand, but just going for a walk. The promenade that is in front of the beach it's always full of people. Everyone's always out going for a walk or rollerblading or taking their bike or something. So I mean, it really has affected things. It really has affected things. And to say Nice, the controls in Nice became more strict as people kept breaking the rules, basically. So, I mean, the mayor had to keep clamping down tighter and tighter, because people would just go out and, when you say you're in confinement and everyone has to be safe, and then you see just tons of people out walking, you're like, no, closed, stop. So,
I mean, did that create
it's a big part of life?
Yeah, for sure it is. Like, how did people react to that? Because I know, personally, I'm really frustrated that, certain people just can't follow rules and they can't play nice. So then that means that we can't play either. I mean, how have people taken that over there?
It's been mixed. I mean, everybody reacts differently. I mean, you have the people that, I'm not going to let this affect my life, and just go and do whatever they want, which then makes harder controls for everybody else. Then there's the people who are really paranoid, who are like, nobody should be leaving the house. What is everybody doing? Go, stop. And then there's the people that are kind of in the middle. So I mean, it's really just been a range across the board. And I mean, on the magazine Facebook page, I'm a lifestyle magazine, so I try not to get too newsy, because there's plenty of news. Like, I think people are probably glued to the television or news updates through all of this. So I try to give a little bit more lifestyle things, cultural things, what to watch, museums that are going, virtual visits and things like that. But I did post that a local bookshop had placed a big box of books for free for people if they needed more reading material. And that was the first post ever in the history of the Facebook page where someone put an angry face and were like, what is wrong with you advertising this to people? The virus can be, taken off of pages of paper. This is totally irresponsible of you. And I was just like, okay.
Oh,
so,
my gosh.
This is really a range of people who don't care and go out, and people who think that no one should be doing anything. So
how's your magazine doing in this environment? Because I know a lot of newspapers, print versions of, news, etc., they're really struggling right now. Some of them might go under and might not be able to recover. Like, how is your magazine doing, and the print media in general in your area?
Well, I'm not sure about print media in general in the area. I haven't been hearing anything about it. For my magazine, it's not easy. I mean, basically any kind of ads are non-existent at this point, especially because most of our ads come from restaurants and hotels, and they're all closed and obviously have no money. So I mean, that is definitely a struggle for us, for sure.
How does that look like then in days? So obviously it's a struggle. What has that translated into?
The French government immediately stepped in for all companies, basically from the very beginning, and basically was like, if you need to put your employees on, temporary support, we can pay. I think it was like 85% of their salaries, and you cover the rest. So I mean, we've had government support from the very beginning, so that definitely helps get us through. We haven't. I mean, my bosses certainly haven't told us that we're headed towards any kind of doom. So hopefully we'll be able to ride this out just fine. It's been different as a print magazine, because this is normally what we do. This is a printed magazine, so that's not happening. Normally we would have a May-June issue, and not doing that because, one, we can't print. The printer is not working, not open, and then we have no distribution points because everything's closed. So we've just basically gone completely to our website, doing everything digital. We've created a newsletter, so now every week we have the newsletter, and that's kind of replacing it for this. But our next issue we are planning on printing for July and August. So, and then that will be well, because we're not sure where we can distribute it. We were talking this morning on a teleconference about, we need to find out what's open, if we can even distribute to our regular places. So it's complicated, but we're kind of feeling it out as we go.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how long the government support will last for.
Well, it will definitely last as long as we are in confinement. So we have an end date of May 11th, and then I think it will change more towards sector. So most businesses will be able to reopen, except really large shopping centers, or they'll have a lot of people in one place. All restaurants are still closed. They're open in a takeaway capacity, but how much can you make, doing takeaway? It's just not the same. Bars, hotels, and arts and concerts and things are still closed with no presumed reopen date And so this is kind of the big discussion now is, you know, the economic effect of this on the tourism industry is going to be really horrible. It's really bad.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, it's similar to where we are here. I mean, San Diego is a tourist city. I mean,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
any
and
place
so,
that relies on tourism for their income is just really going to have a hard time this year and next year, because it's going to, you know, how long will it take to get over this period that you've made basically nothing? So it's going to be really hard.
how has the expat community like come together? Because I remember from my years of living in France, I was near Toulouse, so not too far from where you are now.
No.
Yeah, and you know, you just because you are living in a, you know, a country that speaks a different language to you, you do find yourself gravitating towards fellow English speakers, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
especially people from like your country of birth. And like, how has that worked during this lockdown? Have they got closer together, or you know, how has the relationship between the expats
You know,
evolved?
the community has always been really close, especially through Facebook, because there's so many Facebook groups and there's multiple English speakers on the Côte d'Azur, or English speakers of the French Riviera. I mean, there's so many groups that are already closely knit, and they just pass information together all the time. You know, sharing things. A lot of people will say, "Oh, you know, my French isn't really good, and I need to understand this document. Can someone help explain this?" So there's a lot of support amongst the expat community, and here there's a very large British community and a sizable American community, but really it's such an international area. And so the fact that English really is the international language, I mean, it's kind of like it's the thing that brings us all together. I mean, we have readers from when I first joined, it was very much focused on thinking that our readership was really British and some American, but I've looked into it, and we really have readers from all over the world. And you know, English is that kind of joining, connecting thing, and and through, especially through Facebook, people just really stay connected and help each other out. I don't know if the virus has brought us closer together. I think that it was just already close, but it's been super helpful for people understanding, you know, the documents we had to sign, the certificates and things. So I think it's maybe proved more helpful. But yeah, it's always been a close community.
Nicole, what's working from home like?
Well, it hasn't been too much of an adjustment for me because I did freelance for many years. But not being able to leave and kind of break my mind from things. And I'm in a studio, so I don't have like a little office I can go into and walk away. It's just everything's just right there. So
yeah, but look at that balcony.
This is my saving grace. Like seriously, if I didn't have this, I would be in like around the bend by now. No, it's been difficult. It's been difficult, especially right in the beginning. It was, you know, I kind of had this period of time where I was just overwhelmed with work because I was just working full time. I just never stopped, you know. It was 11 p.m. and I'd be thinking about, you know, tomorrow's article or you know, scanning all the data. It got just I burnt out really fast from that. So then I realized, okay, I need to go back to what I know about freelance and make time and try to stick to a schedule and turn off after a certain time and not just constantly be on. So it took a little bit of adjusting. And now it's, I wouldn't say it's great because I still can't leave the house, but I found balance.
How have you found balance? So I'm just interested because I'm in a, you know, similar situation to you. I'm also trying to homeschool the girls as best I can.
Yeah.
And I've just found myself, my days are longer. They feel longer than they were before because
much longer.
I feel like I'm cramming more in. And honestly, I have a job switching off at night. I'm thinking about work, you know, till very late at night. So like, tell me how you found balance. I need to know.
This is my list of alarms. I have now given an alarm for just about everything. So I have like an alarm to wake up and like do some kind of yoga or mindfulness or meditation or something. doing. But I have that. And then I have another alarm, half hour, like get dressed. Like really detailed things.
Really? Oh my gosh, I might need this. This is sounding good.
8:30 alarm, get dressed. 9 a.m., start working. And then I have 12 o'clock. For me, especially, alarms to eat, because I will get so focused, and the computer, just the nature of working on the computer, you just like zone in and time disappears, which for journalists or writers in general, I think is a common thing. You just get in the zone and just everything disappears. So I have an alarm for lunch. I have an alarm for, going back to work after that. I have an alarm for taking a break. I have an alarm to get back to work at 5 p.m. because in the afternoon, maybe I do a little free time. And then I have an alarm for dinner, and I have an alarm for going to bed. I don't always follow these alarms. And sometimes, if I'm really in the middle of working, I'll push snooze 10 times. But it does help me to kind of remind, oh yeah, I have to eat. Okay. It's like, it's helped. I'm not perfect.
Yeah,
but
I need
helped.
you to like screenshot that and send it to me. But I know what you mean. I mean, the difficult thing with our job, and not just our job, I'm sure other jobs are like this too, but once you get into a flow state, you don't want to kind of interrupt that, because, we're writing, you lose it. So it is difficult sometimes. For example, I mean, I don't always do this, but I haven't had breakfast yet, and it's like, what time? It's 11:40 in the morning here. I haven't eaten yet, and so I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself too.
And that's the thing. That's the thing is the whole self-care thing, and you see, in the beginning, it was I got so overwhelmed and stressed because, on top of all of the work and thinking, I have to update the website, I have to post everything onto all the social media, on the Facebook page and the Instagram page, and I have to figure out, okay, that's the really crap picture for that. I have to find a better picture because it's not good enough for Instagram. And all of these things that are kind of, are background apps that are just constantly running. And then there's the work that you have to do, and the articles and the planning and the research and the press releases that come into your inbox every day. And it's just like doing all of that. And then when you are on social media, because you have to post things, and so then you're on it, and then you do what you're programmed to do, which is get distracted and watch all of the other posts. And then all of a sudden I'm supposed to be baking and making sourdough starter and, being some kind of fitness goddess. And I should have, this is my time to get my 6-pack. Okay. It was too much. And I just totally burnt out, overwhelmed. And that's when I was like, okay, forget it. Like, I don't need to do anything. That I read an article by someone who was like, is anyone else barely coping at this moment? And that really, there's like worldwide crisis right now. I don't need to be super producing. I don't need to be, doing this and keeping up with everything. So that helped me kind of just like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, I agree. And I've read similar articles. In fact, I interviewed a great lady when all of this first started, and she kind of said the same thing. Don't be so harsh on yourself. Don't compare yourself to other people on Facebook. Their posts are probably fake anyway. They probably haven't had the perfect. They're not going to put photos of like how horrible their day went. They're going to put photos of how, like, the highlights of their day. So don't base your day on someone else's highlights.
This is me making my matcha latte from home.
Yeah. I mean, my posts of like my girls doing schoolwork are few and far between, because frankly, schoolwork is happening few and far between, because mummy also has to do other things. So it's very important not to put so much pressure on yourself. But I love the idea of your timers.
And that made such a difference. It made such a difference because, not to mention just when you're never leaving the house and you don't have to go anywhere, be anywhere at a particular time, you just kind of floats into this abyss of, what day is it? So just having this kind of constant thing, where you're like, it's really annoying. Okay. I'm just going to tell you, it's super annoying. My phone is always beeping and buzzing, but it keeps.
What do you do at night? Do you switch it off? Do you turn it on silent? Like, how do you like block it at night?
No, it's not people calling me. It's just my alarms. It's my alarms that are beeping and buzzing. So at night it doesn't happen. It's just my little ding, 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 time to go to bed, which I, don't do right away. But but it reminds me. It just is kind of like this annoying little thing. Like, oh right, I should be doing that now. Okay, right, I'll get there in a few minutes.
It's like having a
Yeah.
mum slash teacher just, with you constantly telling you what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Nagging you. How do you differentiate between weekdays and weekends? Because I just think every day is the same. I'm like, it's the weekend. We're like, oh, so what will we do differently? Oh, cool, kind of nothing, because there's nothing like we can do. So how do you
I have my deadline for my newsletter is on Thursday, and that's basically how I know what day it is. And I'm like, it's the weekend after that, right? Otherwise, I would have no clue. I'd have no clue what day it is. Friends and family's birthdays. Thank goodness that they have, reminder calendars. Because I would just, I know the dates of my friends and family's birthdays, but I wouldn't actually know that that's the day. Like, oh, today's the 4th. Okay, right.
Well, since I've moved abroad, I send a lot of Moonpig calendars, and Moonpig are quite good at reminding you. So I get Moonpig emails actually to tell me that it's my brother's birthday, for example, in like 3 days. So that's quite useful. And how are your family doing back in the States, by the way? Where are they?
I still have some of my family up in San Francisco area, and the rest of my family has actually moved to Phoenix. And they're doing fine. They're doing really well. Thankfully, everyone's healthy, and it's hard being that far away and kind of seeing on the news that it seems like things are being run kind of a disastrous way over there. But so I worry about that. But everyone's good. Everyone's doing fine, and thank goodness California sounds like Gavin Newsom's doing an excellent job. Sounds like, so I'm super pleased with that. I think it really has been important, the confinement, and I understand people's frustrations with it. But I was living in Italy before. I have family and friends in Italy, and just to see what they've been going through all of this has just been really difficult. So the border with Italy is, only 45 minutes from here. So, it's right on our doorstep. And so France, especially this region, was very aware of what was happening in Italy, and once they did their total confinement, we were shortly after that, and it's just so important. So it's difficult seeing kind of how lax it's being considered in the States. All I can do is tell my family, please stay home, don't go out. And everyone seems to be doing self-confinement pretty well.
Yeah, I think for the most part they are. Obviously, Gavin Newsom didn't think Orange County were doing quite as much as they should be doing, so he's reclosed the beaches, which hasn't gone down very well there. But it's, we all want to get back to normal, don't we? And so if this is what we need to do to restart our lives and restart the economy, let's just do it. Because I don't want to be stuck in my house, for any longer.
No, I know. And, if you just kind of leak it out little bit by little bit, and then you have to keep pulling back and say, no, we got to close this again. Just do it. It's kind of like a Band-Aid, right? Just do it full on. Don't leave your house. And once you get past the curve, because the idea isn't, and I don't know if everybody understands this, the idea isn't that people don't get the virus. The idea is to keep the overwhelm at the hospitals down. Because, if there's more people needing respirators than there are respirators, and you're just going to have people unnecessarily dying in a hallway, So it's, if people say, oh, everyone can get it. Yeah, okay. The point is to not overwhelm the hospital. So if you can, right at that peak where, everyone is seeing that curve, if you can just lower it so that we have kind of a lower curve, then more people live, which would be the goal. So yeah, it's better to just stay inside, ride it out. Now we're on the other end of it. We're at the slope of our curve now. So Italy, and next week is us, and Spain has been relaxing their rules as well. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it goes well.
Yeah, I mean, how exciting to be told that schools are returning next week. I mean, I would be jumping off the kitchen table right now if I had that news. And sorry, go on.
There's a bit of polemic about that, because a lot of other things people want reopened, and they're thinking is school really the best thing to reopen? Because then, you know, it's only a month and a half that they're going to be open, and then it's summer again. So like, what is the point of, you know, exposing our kids to, you know, because little kids, let's face it, their hygiene is not the best. They sneeze without covering, and they don't wash their hands, and they touch everything. And so, you know, is that really the best thing to start with? So that's really been a discussion now. And the government's a little pulled back a little bit, saying, okay, well, it's voluntary. You know, you're getting back to work. You need to send your kids somewhere, in them to school. It's kind of been an interesting discussion. Back to school. We all know that.
Yeah, well,
But
Gavin
it
Newsom
kind
has. Yeah, sorry, go on, Nicole.
no, yeah, that's a perfect example. Japan opened up, and then they had to pull back because it was reinfecting. So,
and I know there's been an idea
we'll see.
floated here, by Gavin Newsom, that maybe schools could potentially open up here in July. I don't know. There's been nothing. I spoke with my girls' teachers on Friday. They didn't know anything about that. It's not been fed down to the teachers at kind of a school level yet. So we will have to see. What do you think Nice is going to look like once, you know, normality, however that looks like returns?
Our new normality.
Yeah, the new normal. What will that look like in Nice?
I don't know. It's anyone's guess, really, because it's hard to say without knowing when restaurants and cafes can open, because that's such a massive part of culture here, is just the outdoor cafes, walking on the promenade. I mean, obviously the promenade will be reopened, people can walk around, but without the cafes and restaurants, I don't know. It's gonna be I don't know. That's the life of the city. It's a life of everything. And then the same with Southern California, you know. I mean, how many cafes do you have just all of your patio filled with tables? You know, in Lithuania, they're doing outdoor seating. So maybe, you know, if you have the patios, it's fine, and that will be acceptable, and we can kind of have everything outside and not inside. I'm not sure. We're still kind of feeling out how that's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk in some countries that when including this country, when restaurants do reopen, for example, in certain states, that the restaurant can only be like 50% capacity. They can't go to full capacity. I mean, what guidelines have been given to local restaurants in Nice?
And our local mayors who you know, our local economy here depends so much on it, with cafes and restaurants. Their basic said, the mayor of Cannes, in fact, he wrote this long open letter after Macron gave his speech a few weeks ago, saying that we can go back to work on the 11th, but restaurants and bars and hotels we have no date for them. And so he wrote this open letter saying, we need to have a real plan. He called, you know, for a Marshall Plan for tourism to support all of these restaurants that have no income, no work. We need to have some kind of idea when we can plan for the restaurants to reopen, because there are so many small businesses here that are just gonna go belly up, because how do you survive? And I have a good friend in Sydney who, they have an incredibly successful chain of restaurants and pizzerias. I think they have 4 locations. They're written up in the top place to be, top bar, top pizzeria, and all of the guides everywhere. They've won first place for, you know, the top bartender. I mean, they are just so hot. And this hit, and what Sydney did is they didn't close everything down, but they restricted. So they said you could only have so many people in a certain amount of space, and you can only have so many tables per night, or, you know, whatever. They allowed everyone to stay open, but just really restricted how many people could be there. And within weeks there, my friend was just saying, like, I don't know if we're going to be able to keep, I don't know if we're going to, that is so restrictive for their income, because they have to have a full staff, they have to have all of the food, so they're still paying out, but they're not making in things. So she said it's almost better just to stay closed, because then we don't have to pay the staff, we don't have to pay, you know, all this stuff. So it's really hard to tell. I mean, everyone's anxious to reopen, but if you reopen under reduced clientele, is that better or is it worse? I don't know. So
it's interesting. Yeah, certainly. Restaurants are going to have to navigate this whole new world. But for people that don't know the area that you're in, Nice is very posh, it's very wealthy, and the people that are expats that live there generally have a lot of money. How,
for the most part,
yeah, for the I mean, obviously, you know, there's the likes of struggling journalists like you and I that live in nice places. We really have no right to be living there. But other than that, there is a lot of money in Nice. You know, I mean, that scene behind you, you know, there'll be kind of multi-million-dollar yachts on there, etc., and can even more so, which is just down the road from you. So, you know, how has this crisis impacted that area? Because clearly, really,
yeah. I mean, not, you know, you're going to have the 1% owners of everything, which how much will impact them? Not really sure. It depends on what they make their money from. But the sheer mass of workers that, you know, work the restaurants, they work the events, they work the hotels, they work, you know, they're just totally out of work. So, I mean, mostly, you know, the wealth and the flash gets the attention, but there's, you know, hundreds of thousands of workers here that support all of this, you know, and you know, Ken especially has really been hurt, because they depend.
So we're losing you a little bit, Nicole. It's obviously just a case of we're on Zoom and you're in France and I'm here in the States. Can you hear me, Nicole?
Yeah, I can hear you. This is what I call this French internet. It goes in and out.
Oh, I remember it well. I remember once. Even the TV's not great because I was living in France during the Olympic Games in London.
Oh no.
And I was watching the opening ceremony and the TV just went off. We lost signal. There was a big storm or something. So
if there's a storm, just forget about it.
Hey, how many storms are you having? Are you having storms yet? Is it storm season? Has it got hot enough there yet to have storms?
No. It's good. We've gotten into the beautiful period now, so it's perfect weather.
It gets certainly where I was, because I wasn't on the coast. You're on the Riviera, obviously. I was in Toulouse, which is more inland. Oh my gosh, it got stifling hot during the summer to the point where you couldn't go outside. You just don't go outside.
No, it's always amazing here. It's just like Southern California. This is like me being able to live at home, but I'm in France.
Oh,
great.
How nice. Oh, talking about that, language-wise, like how often are you having to use French? Because, you know, you're working for an English publication, you know, you're dealing with a lot of expats who English is their first language. And like, how much French do you actually get to speak?
No, a lot. My readers are English speakers, but all my interviews, I do all of my interviews in French. Unless I'm interviewing expats, probably 90% of my interviews are in French, and my whole company is French. So all day at work, it's all French, and my Zoom meetings every morning are in French. So yeah, it's a lot of French.
You're so clever, because you're also fluent in Italian as well. So you're such a clever lady. Okay, so do you get like headaches because you're having to use your brain so much more because you are speaking? Because I used to like
in the beginning it was really difficult. It's really different, and by no means really good in French. My Italian's good. I lived there for 10 years, so that I can say. Plus, it's so much easier than French. French is so difficult. No, but in the beginning it was really difficult, especially because of the switching back and forth. Like, I'm not able to completely immerse because I'm always working on the magazine, and I noticed, especially around the deadline time, when I would just be 14 hours a day at every single piece, and when you're editing something, you have to be 110% focused on every single word. You have to catch commas and periods and things, and so I'm just intensely focused on English, but my designer does not speak English, so I would have to constantly email him or go and speak with him and then switch to French, and it would just be terrible, and he would get so annoyed with me. He's like, "Don't you know French yet?" And it was just that switching. And I realized that, normally if I'm relaxed, it would be fine. But, on deadline time, when I would be working with him one-on-one, it would just be a mess. And so after a few issues, I started getting better and better. And now I think last Christmas or something was the last issue. I was able to easily go back and forth, and I realized, oh, I've hit a milestone. I can switch
Well, I'm
back and
really
forth now.
impressed. Yeah. Do you find though that like your French friends or your French boss, do you feel that they kind of know the real Nicole? Because I had lots of great French friends when I lived in France, but because
That's a really good
I
question.
just don't, yeah, because I just don't feel that my humor was necessarily translating well in French. I didn't feel that they ever totally knew the real me, and I just wondered like if you feel the same, or if if you don't have that issue
Um,
anymore.
I don't. I think that they know me. They know they get who I am. They know me, but there is definitely, and you're not able to express yourself the same. There's just no way. It's just not possible. So there's a lot of things that I would say, a lot of jokes I would make that I don't, because I just can't say it. But I think they all have a good sense of me personality wise. But you're right. You're totally right. It's so different, and I don't think, I think especially friends, maybe professionally, people get a good sense of me professionally, but when you have a friend and you maybe have deeper conversations and you want to open up a little bit more, it just, not to say that it's not there or couldn't happen, but it's definitely more difficult, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. You mentioned earlier about the impact that this situation is having on workers. Who are the workers that are working in the restaurants and bars? Are they local French people? Are they immigrants? Who are they?
Oh, everything. Mostly local French, I think.
Okay, yeah, I was just interested
Cats, but
because you know
I mean, people
French.
come here from everywhere. So I mean, we've we've got like Irish pubs that have Irish bartenders, and I mean, there's just a mix of everybody. So it's really, but I think for the most part, people are French, for sure.
Okay, like how is the like cohesion between immigrants there? Because I know when I lived in Toulouse, there was always this um, kind of like undercurrent of angst between the French and the French
Mm.
Algerians, who were also
Mm.
French, but there was definitely this kind of animosity, low level animosity, I would
Mm.
say, and they were very much treated. French Algerians, most of whom were obviously born in France, so they were
Yeah,
just
yeah.
as French as the native French, if you like, but they were very much treated like second class citizens. They were put in like rough areas of town, in like poor social housing. And it was actually at a time where France was experiencing or starting to experience problems with terrorism. They had that a spate of attacks,
Yeah, yeah.
which started when I lived there. And I just wondered if you get the same impression where you are, or whether that's very different in Nice.
I wouldn't say, well, yeah, it's different. It's certainly not pronounced. It exists for sure. And I think that anywhere you get a large enough city, that um, you're going to have larger communities left out. I think it's going to happen. It definitely exists in Nice for sure. Um, Not so much in the smaller towns. So Nice is definitely the biggest city. It is a very large city, and yeah, it exists there. Not too much, and we did have a terrorist attack in Nice in 2015, 16,
Yes, you
16,
did. And that was
2016.
it. Yeah, I mean, that was just
I was there that
devastating,
day,
wasn't it?
actually.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were living there then. So how was
No,
that?
well, no, I was living in Sheffield, but I was visiting. I had work here. I was doing freelance work with a company in Monaco, and I was in Nice that morning and driving back to Italy that day. So I wasn't there that night when it happened, but yeah, I was there that morning. So yeah, it was it's crazy. It's crazy when it happens so close to you.
Yeah,
But
I mean, just to refresh, people's memory. I mean, that was terrible. It was
it was
a
Bastille Day. It
lorry.
was,
Yeah,
yeah.
go
So
ahead.
it was a
You
big
explain. Go ahead. Yeah,
Independence Day celebration. It happens
yeah.
on July 14th, and everybody was out on the promenade, and yeah, a lorry just plowed through people, and yeah, and there was shooting, and yeah, it was bad.
I mean, it just awful. And what struck me, I remember watching it. I was reading the news for the BBC the next morning, so I had to go to bed early, but I couldn't go to bed because the story was just breaking. I think I was watching maybe BBC News 24 or Sky News.
Yeah, because it happened late. It happened late at night.
It happened late at night, and I just and by the time I woke up from my reading shift at the BBC, so like 5 hours later, I was just, it was just gut wrenching. The death toll had just gone up and up.
Yeah.
And for me, it struck home because obviously I lived there with my 2 children, and we would do, you know, the whole entire country on that day. It's like July 4th here, isn't it?
Exactly.
Everyone is out, everyone is with families, and you know, kids are still out very late at night on that night. And I just felt sick because, you know, that could have been us in Toulouse, or I mean, how has that city bounced back from them? Because it will be the 5th anniversary in July.
Yeah. No, it's definitely bounced back. They make a point of honoring and doing a ceremony every single year, and they, you know, have had funds to help the families. It's always present. You know, they make sure that it's never forgotten. But no, I think it's done really. The city's done really well, and any kind of public event or festival, the security is like top. I mean, they don't take any chances.
But France is similar to the States in as much as they have armed police. In the UK, it's not usual that, I mean, regular police officers do not carry guns. They have to be...
Which always seems surprising to me as an American.
Yeah, so my dad was a police officer in the UK. I mean, to my knowledge, I'm not even sure he's ever fired a gun, and he was a police officer for 30 years. So, you know, you have an actual armed response unit in England, but the regular, like, Bobby on the beat, you know, carries a truncheon. My dad used to have a truncheon and that old-fashioned like police hat that you see on and
they have tasers now too, right? Like, they go around
and they have tasers, but they're not armed. So I've got a funny story. It probably won't shock you because, like, you're an American and now I'm living here. It's not as shocking to me now. But I was once in Toulouse airport, traveling back to the UK with the girls to visit my parents. And I was in the loo, I was in the bathroom, the toilet, and armed police came in. They were just doing like regular checks. I'm like, oh my gosh, can not even have a wee without, you know, an armed officer walking in and disturbing the peace. I was really shocked. But, you know, I remember that when we were living there, we had armed police outside my girls' school because there'd been a terrorist attack in Toulouse a few days before. And that became normal for about a week. We had armed police outside the school, and it's just, it's still shocking to me to see police.
But it's shocking to me. I mean, you know, guns are part of the American culture. It's not something shocking for an American to know that someone has a gun or something. But it's not like you go around seeing them every day. So
right.
I was at the mall a couple weeks ago. Before all this, maybe a month or two ago. And I was just coming out of a department store, and there was a military person in full fatigues and a very, very large gun, huge, massive machine gun, just standing there holding it. It's not something you expect when you come out of a department store, you know? It's just, oh, hello. So yeah, I mean, it's shocking to me too. It's not something you see every day, and I don't know if that's supposed to make me feel safer. I don't know. I was just shocked.
Yeah, it's interesting. Didn't Nice put some safety measures with regards to their promenade? Haven't they made that much safer though? So you can't actually get
they've completely redone it. It's been in construction for years, and they're just starting to open it up in sections now. I mean, it's been open, but they've had construction and fences and stuff, and there's kind of barriers now, so no one can just drive a vehicle onto it and start plowing people down. So no, they've redone things. They've and it looks much more beautiful too. No, it's nice.
Okay, nice. I actually haven't been to Nice, but I will definitely come and visit you once we're back over in Europe. What are you most looking forward to about getting back to normal life?
Sitting at a cafe. That's what I'm. That's what I miss.
Me too. Oh my
Ordering
God.
something and having a drink with a friend at an outdoor table. Yeah.
yeah, just things that we took for granted. We took, I mean, we didn't think twice,
Like the
did we, about going to get a
simplest
coffee?
thing.
Yeah, me too. We've got a fantastic coffee shop just down the road from me. We're near Torrey Pines, and so it's beautiful. And there's this fantastic coffee shop which sadly is closed. Hopefully it will reopen once it can. But you know, I used to take for granted just walking down there and getting myself my oat milk latte, and it's closed. I'd give anything to be able to do that right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I kind of, from a philosophical standpoint, think it's this really great kind of outcome of this is how much we are maybe not going to take things for granted anymore, you know, like, well, of course we will eventually, but just the fact that I think maybe we've come down to so much more simpler things, you know, gotten rid of so much of this extra stuff that busied us a lot. And I hope that once we get out of this, we can remain kind of appreciating the simple things in life, like being able to go see your family for Sunday lunch or something, you know, something so super simple. Or being able to have your birthday with friends, because I had my birthday on a Zoom meeting, which was nice to see my family.
When was your birthday? When was it?
The end of March 24th.
Oh, we'll have
you know, it was nice to see everybody. Thank you, but you know,
it's not the same.
Not fun. It's not fun.
I know. Sophia, my eldest, it's her 12th birthday at the end of this month, and she's really disappointed because my parents were supposed to come over, and she was obviously going to have a party with a friend, and that's not happening now. So, we're thinking of like alternative ways of throwing a party in the home in isolation. But, oh my gosh. Well, listen, Nicole, it's just been fantastic seeing you again. It's been far too long. I'm so glad we got to have a nice catch up though. Thank you again. You take care of yourself, and I'd love to check in with you, you know, maybe a few months down the line and see how things are for you there in Nice.
Yeah, please do. And you should come visit once, you know, you can actually take a flight.
Once I can leave my house, I'll be straight over, Nicole.
Yeah, that would be the first step. Step 1, being able to leave the house. Step 2, being able to get on a plane.
Yeah, for sure. We will make it happen, definitely. Well, you take care, and like I say, thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll be in touch in a few months, and we'll check back in with how things are with you. Thanks,
and hope everything is going well in California. I miss it.
It's great. California misses you. You need to come here too.
Oh, okay.
Okay, take care. Bye.